I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Bienvenidos a todos. I am Lucy Curran Elliott, and I am delighted to invite you to our webinar, Me First, Familia Second, and Career Strong. Approaches to professional life balance. We are excited to focus on the topic of familial roles and expectations organized by Prospanica's Latina Track Committee. Our objective today is to equip Latinas with effective strategies to navigate the hurdles they face in managing both their professional and familial responsibilities. In our dynamic and often demanding work environments, achieving a balance between career ambitions and family roles is critical. For Latinas, this balance can be particularly complex due to the multiple roles we fulfill and the distinct cultural and societal expectations we encounter. Today's discussion aims to address these challenges, offering practical insights and tools to help you thrive both personally and professionally. We are honored to have a panel of distinguished speakers who will share their expertise and firsthand experiences. They will provide actionable strategies to manage stress, foster resilience, and cultivate a harmonious work-life balance. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to an engaging and enlightening session. I'd now like to introduce our moderator and fellow Latina Track Committee member, Claricer Bello.
Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. Feliz miércoles, todos bienvenido a esta welcome, because I was going to start in Spanish, but I won't do that. But let's make this Spanglish, everyone. So everyone, welcome to another Latina Track webinar by Prospanica National. What a pleasure to have you join us today. I am Floricel Bello, one of the committee members and founders of Bellas Fashionistas. And you know, we are so happy to be talking about mi familia y el trabajo, and how us Latinas are, you know, we tend to do it all and never say no. But I am happy to be here today and joining you guys with the esteemed Latina leaders, panelists that will be sharing their experiences and how they were able to be where they are today. So we do encourage you to please tell us what city and state you're connecting from. Please type it in the chat. Let us connect via LinkedIn. Drop in your LinkedIn profile and follow each panelist. And don't forget to follow Prospanica National and also Bella Fashionistas. We welcome you to utilize the chat. As I mentioned, drop in your questions. Please enter them in the comment section on our LinkedIn Live. We'll address as many as possible throughout the course of this Latina Track webinar. And without further ado, now it is a pleasure for me to introduce our speakers of tonight. And you know, it's so nice to introduce these Latina powerhouses who are really paving the way for the next generation of Latina leaders. So please join me in welcoming Perla Tamés Casas Novas. She's the CEO and founder of Latina Empire. Morgan Flores, who is the strategic pricing manager of Constellation Brands. Susana Bauman, award-winning journalist, best-selling author, founder of Latina in Business, LatinasInBusiness.us, and the president of Excel Branding LLC. And please, lastly, please join me in welcoming Beth Marrancini, who is our Madam Chair, Prospanica National Latina Track and Mujeres Brillantes Awards. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Mujeres Emprendedoras. ¿Cómo están hoy? I do welcome you guys to stay off, to unmute yourselves. And please, we would like to start off with the first question. And we start off with Perla. Perla, please share with us what it is that you do on a day-to-day. We know Latina Empire, but you are a serial entrepreneur, Perla. Please share us more about yourself and what you do.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining. A pleasure to be here sharing with the Latina Track of all of Prospanica's guests that are joining us through LinkedIn. Beth, My heart to you, my friend Felicer. Thank you. So, how do I do a day? I'm a mother of four. I run 3 companies full time. Plus, Latina Empire is my baby, my youngest company baby, and I try to organize my day. And actually, lately, after I gave birth to twins 10 months ago, I felt extremely bottled in my emotions, in my health, in my spirituality. And so what I've done recently is hire a health coach that is educating me on what to eat. I'm organizing my agenda. And so I have the first 3 hours of the day, I've been waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, are for me time, right? And then I start my day to be able to tackle and meet with the CEOs of my different organizations to be able to deal with day-to-day operations of the entities. But I think that knowing what's affecting you is key. Organizing the people that are going to support you and what's affecting you is key, so that then you can get to a sustainable schedule of your day.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It says that raising children, it's you have a community, right? And
Yes.
sharing that. Now I would like to go to dearest Morgan Flores. Morgan, share more about yourself and what it is that you do at Constellation Brands.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to join you guys, especially with the panelists that we have here. I'm so honored to be amongst them. I joined the alcohol beverage industry about 10 years ago and have had several roles throughout it. And I've just been really proud that I've been able to build up a career as somebody who's young and Latina in a majority male-dominated industry. So a lot of my experience in managing my own family, the 10-year-old son, and I'm a single mom. And so kind of navigating through all of these things has been very educational. And it's been amazing to have the Hispanic mothers that I had and other role models to show how you can do this. To your point, being, you have the desire to be a good mother, but also how to be strong and continue through and find a way through no matter what.
Amazing. I am humbled by Latinas like yourself. Susana Bowman, Miss Serial Entrepreneur here.
Hi, thank you for the invitation to Prospanica National and my very good friend Beth Marmolejos. And I am thrilled with this multi-generational panel, because I think we are at very different stages of our careers, and that will bring a lot of experience and information to the webinar. So I am going to start from I have so much to tell because I'm very old, but I am going to start from backwards. I'm in my 4th or 5th stage of my career development. I just published my new book, which is here. I don't know if you're going to see it. There you go. Speak Up. And it's also in Spanish. All right. And so I am semi-retired. I just founded a new company called Excel Branding LLC to help women speak up, tell their stories, and gain influence as individuals, but also as the group. We need to move our influence as a group very, very, in a very strong and determined way. I am divorced. I've been divorced for many years. I have 2 grown children, 2 granddaughters, 10 and 12. And I do have a past life. In Argentina, I was an architect and by trade, and also a university professor. And when I migrated to the United States in communications and work in corporate for the state of New Jersey, launched my own business, and years later founded an organization to support Latina entrepreneurship. So as you see, I had different stages, and now I'm really enjoying, this stage of my life.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you went on pause. And I think you were a little bit, I think you had concluded, but I wanted to invite Beth Marrancini, por favor. Beth, tell us a little bit about yourself, Madam Chair of Prospanica National and Mujeres Brillantes. Enlighten us, please. Give us a background on yourself, Beth, to those that do not know you. You're muted.
I'm going to be short in my introduction because I'm really eager to let others speak, especially the women that we have here. I truly feel that, like Susana, that we have a great representation. I am, my personal life, my career, a national account executive for a healthcare company, which I'm not representing here, but I am representing as the Madam Chair, Prospanica National, Latina Track, as well as Mujeres Brillantes. And I just want to emphasize the reason why we're here is because going back about a year or so ago, I realized reading some statistical information that Latinas are the youngest in the workforce, and they are going to be replacing, as you know, the United States workforce is aging, and a lot of people are retiring, especially after COVID. So right now there is a lack of employees and especially professionals. So when I realized this fact and, educated myself, I really knocked on the door of our wonderful CEO, Tomas Sabino, who has always been a supporter of Latinas and all professionals in general. And I expressed my desire to volunteer to assist Latina, not only, develop them professionally, help them move up on their career, help them on like a 360 mentally, physically, professionally. It's really is an urgent call that I'm making right now, especially for those companies that are here. Latinas, there's 1 in every 5 women in the US is a Latina. And think about those numbers going in 2025, like the prediction of how much the Latino community is going to grow, and it's going to be Latina. So it is imperative that companies invest money in not only developing the Latina talent, but helping them move up to the leadership role. And that's why we're here. And in doing that, I joined Felicel, I joined Lucy, Jackie Bouver, who is on the committee, and as well as Randy. And we are a committee. We're working with Esther in National and Lorena now to move forward with our agenda. So more to come on what we're doing. But that's why we're here. And that I strongly and passionately believe that we could do more to help our Latinas succeed in corporate and as entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Beth, I think you're so right on point, and I want to thank you. No, thank you, because you bring everyone together. And, thanks and kudos to Tomas Sabino for being an ally. But, I think that these conversations are very vital to have on a normal basis so that our professional Latinas can continue and this information could be passed on to the next generation. And, the Latino community has so much bad reputation, but, I don't want to focus on the bad reputations about culturals and expectations, because they have their good within their bad. And I want to share and highlight all of these conversations throughout this webinar. And I would like to start first with Perla. As a serial entrepreneur, running different companies, Perla, what the cultural and societal expectations that you had as a Latina woman, pura Mexicana, out of Texas, share with us your experience. How does societal and cultural expectations affect Latina women's career and advancement?
Yes. So we as Latinas, we are so rooted in our values. I believe and raised from Mexican parents, right? I am not a bicultural Latina, but I am 50% Mexican. I come from Mexican descent, and I was raised in a small town in South Texas. We come from values, beliefs that are very close-minded, and so sometimes you don't speak up because you don't want to disrespect your elderly. Sometimes if issues are happening, you keep them to yourself because you don't want to be disruptive with your colleagues, your family, etc. So those things that we practice at home is what I see Latinas bringing to the workplace. And so that's why Latinos are, we are 30 million strong in our population, yet we are still underrepresented in state, federal government. We are underrepresented in leadership positions in state Fortune 500 companies, in Fortune 100 companies. You know, we're less than 0.1% represented in boards. But how, if Latinos have the consumption of almost $4 trillion that add value to our GDP? So where is the disconnect? And that's where I believe it comes straight to the value system that we have in our Latino community that does not allow us to kind of break the ceiling, speak up, be valued, be heard, and be seen. You know, put all hands on deck, put your elbows on the table and say, here I am. This is what I do. This is what I love to do. And this is how I'm an asset to your company, because we still play small, right? And so I always tell those Latinos that have gotten very far, and those of us that build stages like this, like you, Felicer, you know, being our moderator, Beth Marmolejos putting this, we all need to push forward with more information of this, where I share and I tell you, I come from a small town. I was always the child in elementary peeking into the classroom because they would always take me out of the classroom because I was disruptive. And that's how I continued to be throughout my university. Of course, I was disruptive with respect. I'm not saying be disrespectful and be obnoxious. No, but you know, I've been told no many, many times, and I've been rejected numerous times from universities. You know, why are you going to study a speech therapist? I think you're too young to make these kinds of decisions. Or, you know, you don't qualify for this $200,000 loan. Just yesterday, I got denied a $3 million loan, right? And I said, okay, what do I need to do to qualify? And so I don't care how many times people tell me no, I'm going to go and look for the yes, right? And so be unapologetically respectful for your values, but be unapologetically about your purpose and your mission in life. And as Latinas, we are here to share our values, our stories of how we broke the ceiling to push forward. And so that those values don't hold us back, but rather elevate us.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, I applaud you for what you have achieved successfully within your professional trajectory, because it is tough for a Latina. And then para una trigueñita. And, you know, and we could speak about that and also in corporate America. And, you know, I want you to share, Beth, what are some of these, as someone that also can add to this conversation, what are some of these common familial expectations for Latina women, and how do these impact career decisions, especially coming from corporate America?
That's a great question. I believe that expectations might vary depending upon the country that you're on, the region within your country that you are from, your educational background, who your parents are. It all depends on your educational level and different factors. There are factors that literally makes it a little bit, you know, in reference to expectations, there are different factors. For example, you know, we are expected to, you know, there's familismo. We're expected to put family first, right? That's you know, Latinas are known for putting family first, as opposed to other, you know, culture like European, right? Where they feel, you know, they are going to be more independent than we are. We also have like this, you know, respect for our elderly, our parents, that tie us down. No matter what happens, you have to follow what your parents are saying. You have to make sure that you respect your parents, even though maybe they didn't get an education and they're pointing you on the wrong direction. You are also expected to have certain roles. You know, Latinas are expected to not only, in some cases, when they don't work and they stay at home, to stay at home, take care of the family, take care of all the business in the family. And when you work, you're expected to, you know, be the main breadwinner in some cases, or work, but also keep up with the family. You know, your husband comes home, he's able to go and watch TV, he's able to go like this and relax. You're not. You're 24/7 on. From the moment you get up, you're expected not only to go to work, but before you go to work, feed the babies, clean the house, make sure everything is tied up. And you're expected to set up like the appointments for the kids, the husband, and the dog, if you have one, or the cat. So I think that, you know, none of that is expected from the men. They're able to get up without any guilt and walk out, work, come home, and relax. We have guilt. Guilt if we don't do the dishes, if you're working and making a 6-figure salary and you come home and you don't cook for your family, you feel terrible. And in some cases, your own family makes you feel terrible that you're doing all these other things. So I think expectations vary, but expectations are really tough on us Latinas, to be honest.
I agree that expectations are based on the educational background and obviously economical background that the person have, which can you guys hear me? I think it's going on and off. I do agree, Beth. I think that expectations are different based on the educational background that the person has. You know, where was the person raised? How was their family dynamic at the end of the day, right? That influences so much on Latinas and how they're gonna continue to raise their families moving forward. And you know,
May I just add one comment about expectations? So the expectations that I had from my mother, who was a single mom, and she had 2 jobs and went to school at 30 years of age, was divorced, right? My father came to the US and she was left with the 4 kids in Dominican Republic. She actually went back to school and became secretary for 2 of our presidents in the Dominican Republic. So I'm only sharing this because the expectations for me were very different. And I didn't realize until I wrote that first book that Perla is a co-author with me. One of the neighbors went to our house and told my mother, wait a minute, you're not teaching your daughters, which my sisters are 10 years older than me, 11, to cook and clean. What's going to happen to them? And my mom turned around and said, no, I'm not raising housewife, I'm raising professionals. So in my mind, I never had a doubt on my sisters to this day that we were going to be working in corporate or in an office or have a profession. There was no doubt. So I just want to say that it's different depending upon where you come from, but where I came from, my mom expected a lot out of us.
Yeah. And you know, and in a positive way, Beth, that makes you who you are today. And you know, and I think that all those things prepare us to be where we are today so that we could be better human beings, as they say, ¿verdad? When we grow older. And you know, a lot of things, it's better to be taught at home versus outside. You know, I want to shift a little bit and overcoming these barriers and challenges, right? I know that that Bella and Beth had shared these cultural and societal expectations, but let's talk about these overcoming these barriers and challenges. Morgan, please share with us, discuss any specific challenges you faced related to cultural expectations and how you had addressed them.
Yeah, thank you again so much. And Perla, especially with your answers, I was just nodding my head the entire time. So when it comes to, especially in my industry, being the female and sometimes the Hispanic, one of the only Hispanics in the room, you're expected to answer and speak for all Hispanics or for all women. Like, what do women want to drink? And it's really difficult to try and advocate for the complexities of the Hispanic community. I was in South Texas, but my background is Bolivian and Puerto Rican. And while I absolutely respect and love that I was able to spend so much time in a Mexican American community, it was, trying to educate my coworkers. If you go to any other state, if you go to Florida, you wouldn't advertise the same way the entire state. So why are you trying to advocate to all Hispanics with no nuance? Like, you wouldn't do this anywhere else. So advocating for that nuance. And then again, in the workplace, both Beth and Perla touched on this. I was not invited to several after work events because they assumed that my husband would not be okay with me because I needed to be home cooking. And it wasn't done intentionally to be excludatory. They were not intending to exclude me. They were respecting, but they were respecting my husband, which I found very interesting. So it's a lot of advocating and doing it with an intent to educate and just to advocate for myself as opposed to blaming them. Like, why would you, instead of saying, why would you think that, say, thank you for taking that into consideration. I actually would really like to come to the dinners and networking events after work. We also was never allowed to display frustration or anger. So working with those emotions, I would see colleagues, slam computers down, things like that. But when I expressed frustration, I was actually held back in the meeting room and said, like, do you need to go home? Like, you're really upset today. Yeah, exactly. And so learning, one of the things that I really hope talking about the future of Latinas is that I think there's a lot of expectation that Latina women are harmonious, that we create a lot of, community. And it is my goal eventually to allow us to have all of the emotions in the workplace and not necessarily only be seen as needing to be pleasant to be around. And then finally, the lack of professional titles that is very common that I've seen, and with all immigrant communities, to not honor specific titles that women have earned. So again, in the community, you might address somebody as Dr. Flores, but if you see me, it'd be like, oh, Miss Morgan. And so kind of like taking that title away. In some ways, it shows that you have a connection with other women in the community, which is amazing. But it also it's difficult. And again, you kind of have to I found that for me, advocating from a place of like, oh, thank you, but I prefer to be called Miss Morgan. I prefer for Dr. Morgan or Professor Morgan, Professor Flores, right? Whatever title it is, just kind of gently correcting and then continuing on. For me personally, it was when I set up a presentation, people would ask me if I was the secretary, but if my direct report set up the presentation, he was asked if he was part of IT. So again, just that constant, these small things, and my biggest piece of advice is to find other advocates, because it is exhausting to have to constantly fight that battle by yourself. And some of the best boss I ever had was the first person to correct. So again, finding those people in your community, in your work community, who are going to also help you with those corrections is how I've been working on overcoming those barriers.
Wow, Morgan, that's frustrating. I was getting frustrated. I'm like, what? Can? No. But it's like along the lines, it's like in general, male-dominated industries. And, they have this perception that women are like this and women are like that. For me, I grew up in a household where my mom is a doctor. My father is in finance. So, my family dynamics were totally different. My parents were a team to this day. So, it's incredible to hear of these stories, because you would say, espérate, wafata, una galleta, ¿verdad? That's very, very, very unapologetic, Perla. Oh my God. And thank you for sharing those stories, because the way that you were able to handle them really is useful information to all of us, that we won't get out of our emotions and get very offended and get really on the emotional side, as men are taught or
they're allowed
of Latinas. Yeah, they're like, Latinas are like this. I'm like, no, that's not true. Latinas are not all like that. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to move over to aside from the cultural and societal expectations, Susana, as a Latina entrepreneur, you were a professor when you were back in Argentina, I believe, or even here in the States. Please share with us, how do cultural expectations within the Latina community, based on your background, influence your approach to balancing work and family as an entrepreneur and as a professor and having your children?
Right. Yes. I think Beth and the three previous speakers cover a lot of ground on these cultural expectations. And I know the question is personal. I just wanted to mention a study that very, very recent, the Pew Research Center from May 2024. And they are now researching us, which is a very big step now. Okay, Latinas, what do we do? How do we feel? What are our expectations? 60% of Latinas feel super pressure, and caught in the middle of family traditions and also the need for success in the workplace, right? Because like Beth and Morgan were saying, and you, Flair, were saying, we come from different backgrounds. And maybe in Argentina, my father was a professional, I was a professional, my sister was professional. I didn't feel that I was out of, order in that place. But when I came to the United States, for instance, one time I was asked if I was the, help for a person who was helping me with some legal issues. And I said, no, I have 2 master's degrees. I'm not the help, So, and I was, working for this person. So you encounter the situation, no matter, how, I think it's about women, and I think it's about stereotypes of the Latino community and Latino women. Now, on top of cooking and cleaning and, taking care of financially of sometimes family abroad, sometimes caring for parents, the elderly, sometimes, being a role model in the community. And I would say Beth is the perfect example of all this. I would say also we need to be attractive and be beautiful and have gray hair, gray skin, and be always perfect and be and we are so we are between this Marianismo, which is our traditions based on religious beliefs and culture, and also we come to the States and we find that we can be something. We can be more than that. We can be successful. We can be business women. We can be successful with business women. We can be corporate people. And we are, in the middle of those 2 very, very different cultures. And Latinas has a special, very, very particular way of adapting to every challenge. We just go for that. We do it, and if we move forward. That's why, and I was listening to you guys, and I get so excited because we need to speak up until their ears bleed. That's my new thing. Their ears have to bleed. They have to know who we are, and they have to know our values, and they have to know really, what. Because we still have a gap in pay, we have a gap in, representation and in corporate and so many other aspects. So we need to speak up. We need to do this as individuals and as a group. And that's, I think, how I, try to. I'm at a stage of my life where my life is mine. I don't have any depending on me, and it's fabulous. It's fabulous, right? I have plenty of time and I'm doing really what I want to do. Working more, working less, traveling, doing this and that. But I did have a pressure. I was burned out after the pandemic. I was just burned out. I worked so many hours. I faced very different stages in my life. I had a car accident. I have to come back. I, sold my first business, launched this another organization, and you just get up and you fall 100 times and you get up 101, and that's a Latina spirit.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm applauding on this end as well, right, ladies? I think it's so empowering, and I mean it in the most humble way, because we have so much to give, ladies. And even though, look, you give us a sperm, we multiply it. You give us potatoes, we turn it into so many different dishes. I mean, that's how God has created each and one of us. And, as long as it could be tiring, but, we are the ones that hold the fort in the house. Anywhere we go, we are so talented. God created us and he knew what he was doing, boy. Because look at you guys today. Coming after all of these stages in our lives, look at you guys today, empowering the next generation. So there's nothing wrong. Okay, there may be something wrong with certain things, right? But at the end of the day, we're warriors, naturally Latinas, unapologetically. Let's just say that. I love that. Now, let's move on to the strategies and the practical tips. Morgan, share with us, how can sticking to a routine help in achieving a balance between personal needs, family obligations, and career demands?
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's I think having a routine has definitely saved me. After my divorce, I really had to reevaluate who I was, and figure out what was my life was going to look like as a single mom. It When I lost the identity of being a wife, I kind of had to re-find out who I was as an individual, and it was the best thing for me. I began to create these schedules and starting with myself. So, like Perla mentioned, you find your time. Women, especially, I think Hispanic women, focus on sacrifice as an act of love. So I will wake up early so that I can take care of myself, so I can still be there to make breakfast for my son, um, who does not appreciate it, but eventually he will. And to do that for him, to be there for him, to create those memories for him, the way that I had from my family. Um, when I created this routine, kind of in that beginning of the pandemic, it was prioritizing what mattered to me, and then also it helped me deal with the craziness of a work week. So if I knew what my schedule was, I wasn't building every single day as I was going. I was making small modifications. And that really helped with the mental load of keeping things together. So I was able to say no, which is incredibly difficult. But seeing the week out and understanding that I was going to be exhausted if I hosted, 2 dinners on Thursday and Friday, and then had an all-day event on Saturday, it helped me learn to say no, and to think about what I was going to feel at the end of the week. And I think too, it's just practicing putting myself first. Where am I going to go was an excellent thing to practice as a person. I also strongly recommend practicing and scheduling how you are going to be seen in your company. So again, like I think for me, the struggle, especially as a manager now, is speaking up, and causing disagreement and discord. When I know that the answer is wrong, it still gives me a ton of stress to say that, to stand up and say that. So I practice that, right? I make it an intention to practice this. Like, how am I going to be brave this week? And it's scheduling that time, because it's so easy to put it off otherwise. And then again, in my particular field, we had meetings at 6 a.m. and then client dinners that could have lasted until midnight. And I wanted to be really strategic about when I attended and when I did not. You definitely need help. Part of the reason I moved to Dallas was for the family support. So I could attend those 6 a.m. meetings, but I chose it with care. So were the people that were important in my company going to be there? So if all the VPs were there, I would make sure to be there. And so it's about, again, when you're looking at your schedule, making sure, how does it benefit me? Just because I can be there, it doesn't necessarily means I need to be there. So that's exactly how I've been working my schedule. It's some weeks it works really well. Some weeks I don't have the discipline, and my week is kind of like, making it as I go along. But my weeks go so much better when I take those 5 minutes to plan it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is important to plan, especially life changes after one has a child, or 2 or 3. So there's a lot of planning, and I give you guys, because you guys are strategizers. I don't know how you guys keep up with that. School this, class here, practice here. I give it to you guys. You guys are amazing. To those that have children, and those that do not have children, you're still amazing. But you know what? One thing that you did say, Morgan, I do feel that when you find your own identity, you become powerful. And identity goes along the lines with purpose. So once you identify those two, forget it. No one can tell you anything for like less than anything of that. And thank you for sharing that. That's one of the highlights of your comment. I want to be able to move over into role models and mentorships. And I just think it's so important. These having role models is so important, and also the support system, which we'll get into shortly after. But Beth, you share support system and resources that are very important with the development of someone's career. Can you please, how can regular exercise, which Morgan was speaking about, having that schedule, and a healthy diet contribute towards a balanced life?
So I'm going to confess, since we're here girls, I am extremely religious with my workouts. I am extremely religious with my body, with what I eat. I don't diet. I don't believe in diet at all. But I will tell you, I will say I owe it to my oldest sister, my two older sisters since I was little. They, since they're older, they were able to work at 19 years old and pay for me to go to karate lessons. So I am a black belt in karate. I was in swimming lessons, ballet, you name it. But every morning I get up and the first thing that I do is I do an hour and a half to 2 hours of self-care. And no, but I don't deviate. There is no, I am too tired today. I don't want to do it. And all that consists of a exercise regimen that I have, a sauna, and now a cold plunge. We bought a cold plunge tub. So I feel that what that does for me, it sets my day. I do meditation in the sauna. I really have to prepare myself mentally to be able to deal with what's coming, because my job is demanding and everything that comes to me is an escalation. It's an issue that I got to resolve. That's why I get paid. And it's everything else that I do. So it gives me a lot of energy to be able to do all the volunteer work that I do. People ask me, oh, how do you do all that I do? Well, I condition myself. I condition my body. I condition my mind with meditation. I live in an area that is a mountain. Is, you know, I have my chime, my wood chime, my bird feeders. I am very spiritual. So you got to feed your mind, your body, and then your heart. I also pray. I have a certain prayers that I have every morning. And I'm going to tell you, I don't deviate, not even on the weekends. The world could be ending and I will be following my routine because it's my self-care and what I owe to myself. So it gives me, you know, I don't know, peace and quiet to be able to do everything that I do. So hopefully, you know, if I were to leave with a message here is that you need to take care of yourself. Do not make excuses. Even if you have your little ones, you know, when my little ones were little, I would use them as, I would lift them up as weight. And that was time that I was spending with them, my legs, you know, I would use them as weight. So just take care of yourself and your body. You will appreciate it when you get older.
Yeah, you know.
Yes. Yes, I know that.
You know, and as selfish as it sounds, if we don't take care of ourselves first, then we can't take care of the household. So that's just the way it goes. Perla, can you suggest ways to manage stress effectively while going through a busy schedule?
There you go. Sorry, I was on mute. So yes, stress is an everyday thing that is going to happen in our lives. I believe that we are all spiritual beings living in a physical space full of distractions. And so the job of life is to throw punches at us, and our job is to be able to sustain and learn to slide, glide, and duck all at once. And so managing stress and your emotions is huge. So, three things I do to manage emotions. Number one, I meditate. Number two, I've been going out and walking daily out in nature. Believe it or not, you know, right now I'm living in New York City, but I live right in front of Central Park. And so sometimes I go to the park up to twice a day. And connecting with nature has really, really helped me. And tip number three is learn to write letters. You know, when you are going through a stressful situation, you're dealing with emotions, maybe somebody offended you, maybe somebody rejected you, maybe you feel an issue with anybody, whether it's family or it's in the workplace or even friendships, right? I will write letters that are unsent letters, but in the letter I write to the person how I feel for what they did to me, and then I write the last part of the letter is understanding why they did what they did from their shoes towards me. So usually in that portion is where I unwind, and then I end up understanding the person I'm upset at. So I will veto my own emotions, right? And so those are the three things that I do to deal with stress, which stress is brought to us in this physical space by issues that happen with humans.
That is amazing. And I think that having that connection with this motherly earth, I think it's just amazing. It kind of renews us on a daily, and I couldn't agree more with you. And the fact that you're like right across the street from Central Park is even better. So kudos to that. I want to thank you for sharing that. I think that stress-free and balancing food and knowing oneself and really focusing first on us so that we could take care of the whole house, I think it's important so that we could continue on with our families. Now, moving over to our last question. I know that we only have 9 minutes left to this incredible webinar. I want to ask Susana, who were the role models or mentors that influenced your approach to balancing career and family? What advice you give to young Latina women starting their careers and are concerned about balancing future family responsibilities?
Okay. Thank you, Claire. Well, I'm going to tell a short personal story. My mother died when I was 14 months old, and we were very young, my sister and I. So we were raised in a very different type of family, okay? And that I didn't have that direct role model that Beth was talking about, or maybe you have, or you, Flair, talking about your parents and how they became role model for you. Also, in my generation, mentorship was not, it became a trend in the last 15 to 20 years, really. It's old. Mentorship is not a new thing, but it became a trend maybe in 15 to 20 years ago. So when I arrived in 1990, I was in the United States. I was struggling to survive. We were struggling to survive. That was it. That was the whole thing. I divorced shortly after 2 years of being here. My husband left, or I made him leave. And I was left with 2 teenagers, no extended family, no support system, all right? And then this is how you start looking for that support system. And I will get to mentorship, because mentorship, we think of a person if you know in the workplace or someone in your life. That mentorship comes from in so many different ways. People who gave me a hand at that moment of my life, and I learned how the system worked. I didn't know how the system worked in the United States. I had to find out through American new friends, that were helping me. So support networks are very important. Expand your network. You get so much mentorship just to finding, different ideas. I learned about Latin American demographics, all countries in the United States. I didn't know anything about Latin America when I was in Argentina. I love with people from Latin America. And I learned so much from you guys, but also from American friends that teach me every day how things work in this country. So that's one type of mentorship. Then there's the personal mentorship, of course, women that I met. Some they were over my rank, and I'm very grateful that they gave me advice, and informal, unofficial. It was not like, okay, we're going to be, mentor and mentee. And then the third thing is books and authors and coaches. Inform yourself, take the time to improve yourself, in your training, and know what you're doing, and improve, your capacity, your abilities, your skills. That's very, very important. So for me, mentorship has so many different aspects, and you have to try to grab them all, okay? And if you have a mentor, that's even better. but there are other ways that you can also find that support system, which is very important for us.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that a support system is needed, and we actually have it since we were little until we are until our deathbed, because we never stop learning. And, having Latinas like yourself, like Perla, like Morgan, like Beth, and, and like Lucy and all of these Latinas who just come in and share thoughts, I think that's just the way to do it. So network, yes, the network is our net worth, but also that support system. And we could speak about that, Susana and Beth and Perla and everyone on here. I know it's 7:56, so we want to be prudent with everyone's time. As this is going to end soon in 4 minutes. I want you guys to please, you mentioned support system, Susana, but I want you guys to share a thought, just one thought that we could all live with and carry with us for the rest of this conversation and our week. Please go ahead, Perla. Let's start with you.
I believe that if your mind can conceive it, it can achieve it, right? So as long as you have decisions that go in tune with your purpose of life, then it will happen. You have to put the action behind it and you'll see it in your reality.
Morgan.
I love Perla's answer, but yeah, so often the work comes before the results, right? You have to trust that work. I guess the one thing I want to leave with is you get to create your reality, right? So you need to see yourself. You need to see where you go, because if you don't know your path, you will not continue. You won't know if you're making forward motion to it. You won't know if you're taking steps down it. I think that these events are so important because it helps inform what that path looks like. So learning from other successful women, you can start seeing what you need to, as Susanna said, start looking for the information to how do you take that next step? Talk to them. So yeah, just make sure you have the vision so that you can put the energy to go.
Amazing. Susana, you want to go or Beth?
I'll just say the same thing. Speak up. Tell your story until their ears bleed.
And I think for me, if I were to leave a thought is, be yourself, be authentic to yourself, take care of yourself. You go first, first, second, and third. And don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Take care of yourself and do not leave and compromise your decisions because of what others might think of you. Make the decision to be happy and go with it. It's what's important. Okay.
Wow, ladies, thank you so much for those powerful words and thoughts. I am empowered. Gracias mil. I want to welcome in Lucy. Por favor, Lucy, take it on.
All right. Well, this was amazing. Every time we do one of these, I'm like, it can't get better, and they still keep getting better. So anyway, as we conclude today's webinar, which is Me First, Familia Second, and Career Strong, Approaches to Professional Life Balance, I really want to express our deepest gratitude to all of you for attending, and your active participation has made this session truly valuable and impactful. And I'm really, thankful for everybody who made the pivot and switched over to the new platforms. I want to extend a special thanks to Prospanica National and to our CEO, Thomas Savino, for their steadfast leadership and support in making events like this possible. Their dedication to empowering Latinas and promoting diversity and inclusion in the workplace is genuinely inspiring. We are pleased to announce that our next webinar will be on the topic of Marianismo. You heard a little teaser about that from Susanna as we were speaking. That is going to be held on July 31st. We hope you will join us for another enriching session. Also, please don't forget to mark your calendars for a national conference scheduled October 29th to the 31st in Orlando, Florida. It promises to be an outstanding event with numerous opportunities for learning, networking, and professional growth. Thank you once again for your time and engagement today. We truly appreciate you and look forward to seeing you at our future events. Gracias.